Hey there everyone, it's Russell. Welcome to the Reading Fabricator. I hope you're all doing well. And I'm going to sort of give a bit of a discussion today about what my plans would be for this coming year. Now, in the last couple of years, I've done the whole, the popular thing that all the other ones do, where they talk about, 23 books to read in 2023, 22 books to read in 2022. And in those couple of years, I mean, in 2022, I think I read half of what I planned to read based on that video, and last year it was even less than that. It's probably like a quarter of what I planned to read. So I read, I think, of the 23 books I wanted to read in 2023, I only got, I think, around 7, maybe 6 of those done there. And the main issue there is, it takes me a while to adjust to new authors' writing styles, and some of those books that I had on that list there were gigantic books as well, which would take me like a month to be able to digest and to interpret and to research properly. So I figured I'd distill it all the way back down again and go for a much more easier number and something that's also relevant to my personal interests. So as you've seen from the title of this video, this year will be 2024, a reading Odyssey, my year with Kubrick. One thing I've noticed, I'm a big cinephile. I like movies by various directors, and of course the 5 auteurs directors that people always talk about from east to west. You've got, Akira Kurosawa from Japan, Andrei Tarkovsky from Russia, Federico Fellini from Italy, Ingmar Bergman from, I think, Sweden. I'm not quite sure. I've actually not watched any Ingmar Bergman films because he's incredibly hard to track down, at least the ones that I want to watch. And then over in America, you've got Stanley Kubrick. And what I've noticed with Stanley Kubrick is, of the small filming catalogue that he has, of which I think he only has like 13 films, 11 of those 13 films were based on source material, adaptations, so to speak. He seemed to have this fondness for adapting books into movies. And from what I hear, with great success, the fact that a lot of people consider his adaptations to be on par, and in some points even better than the book that they have been adapted from, which is quite a rarity in cinema. Most people usually refer to an adaptation as being quite inferior to the source material. So I'm going to do a rundown list. We've got, his first movie, Fear and Desire, which is like an hour-long movie, a movie that he himself tried to personally just erase from memory because he was so upset with how it turned out, which I found out is on Prime for free, so I can actually watch it. You've got Killer's Kiss, which came after, which I think was 95 or something like that. Again, that's not based on his source material, but I imagine he took a lot of inspiration from various things to do it. But then starting from his third feature film, which is The Killing, we have Clean Break by Lionel White. I've actually not watched The Killing. All I know is that it's generally considered like a noir masterpiece, like a heist film, which apparently Tarantino took a lot of inspiration for when he made Reservoir Dogs. After that, we've got the Paths of Glory film, which might be my top 3 favorite Kubrick films, which is adapted from the book Paths of Glory by Humphrey Cobb. Then we've got Spartacus by Howard Fast. I've actually not watched Spartacus, so that'd be a first for me. Lolita, the big one, Nabokov. I actually tried to read Lolita about 3 years ago and got 10 pages into it. There was a time period there a while back where I read like 4 Nabokov novels in the span of a couple of months, and I think the big ones for me were Penin and Invitation to a Beheading. In fact, I'm quite a big fan of Invitation to a Beheading, and there's a girl in that book there in the weird prison that this guy was kept in, who reminded me a lot of, or must have been some sort of inspiration for the character of Lolita in his later book. And the ending for Invitation to Beheading is a wonderful ending indeed. So that'll be a good one to get to. Follow that, we got the Dr. Strangelove movie, which was based on Red Alert by Peter George, which apparently Red Alert is a much more serious book, but when Kubrick read it, he just couldn't help but laugh at how completely overblown it was and how serious it was all taken, so he thought of turning into a satire, which apparently worked out for the better, but I still want to read it anyway. We've got 2001, A Space Odyssey. This one's a bit of an outlier because, the movie was made simultaneously with the book being written as a novelization. But apparently he took inspiration also from the short story The Sentinel, and the novelization of 2001 and the short story The Sentinel both come from Arthur C. Clarke, who was quite a well-renowned science fiction author from that time period, like 60 years ago. I've never read anything by him. In fact, science fiction is a genre that I've generally shied away from. I don't read that much science fiction, and I really should, given the ideas that are in those books. After that, we've got Clockwork Orange by Anthony Burgess. I have read that one, but it was a long time ago, and I don't think I quite got it. I figured now that I'm more well-read, I can get a better understanding of it. We've got Barry Lyndon, which is based on The Luck of Barry Lyndon by William Thackeray, which is a very, very old book from, I think, from the 1800s or something like that. So I'm curious to see how the writing style is from that time period, because I've actually not read many books from the 1800s, apart from, say, Jane Eyre or even Traum Novelle, which is coming up later. Where we got The Shining by Stephen King, probably the most popular book on this list here, probably the most popular living author today, aside from J.K. Rowling or, you know, the Twilight Lady, whatever. But Stephen King, I did a video way back in October where I asked people to recommend Stephen King to me. The Shining was mentioned a few times, but a lot of people pointed me towards, you know, It and Stand. Some people said avoid him altogether and focus on more artful books that are being under-recognized. And I do want to do that, but I just want to get a glimpse into why so many people think he's a popular author. Because I've read books by him that I like, you know, The Gunslinger, but then I've read plenty of books by him that I didn't like, and it's just, I just cannot find I cannot find that breakthrough, that book where I look at it and go, oh, so that's why he's considered great. The one that is really ticking in my mind is a book called Revival, which he wrote this century. And a couple of fellas that I know posted in that comments in the video there strongly recommended it. And based on the summary of it, it sounds like it's right up my alley. So I might give like a double reading of Revival along with The Shining. It'll be a fascinating read, you know, given my misunderstanding of Stephen King as the author, but also my general disdain of the movie. I don't think The Shining is one of his best movies. In fact, I don't even think it's mid-tier. I think it's like low-tier Kubrick in my mind. But I apparently am the only one on the planet who considers that type of evaluation. Everyone, when they're asked what the top 3 favorite Kubrick films are, they usually talk about either Full Metal Jacket, The Shining, or even Clockwork Orange. Whereas for me, as it stands, it would probably be Doctor Strangelove, Paths of Glory, and Lolita. You know, I actually really like the Lolita adaptation they did. And it's probably, a big part of it was probably Peter Sellers. I just thought it was brilliant in it. Moving on, we've got Full Metal Jacket. Now, this is the tough one. It's based on The Short Timers by, I think, Gustav Hasford. Now, I've gone through and checked all the various online book places, including Amazon, and I can get every single book on there, quite cheaply as well, except for The Short Timers. In fact, on Amazon, you can buy a paperback for like $700, which is, that shows how this isn't happening. So I'm hoping there's a lot of secondhand stores where I live, and I'm hoping to sort of scour through there, maybe find it just hidden in the back in a crate collecting dust. If not, I'll just contact them and just say, oh, you know, can you bring this in and offer me a price on it? If all that doesn't work out, I will have to resort to possibly reading a book set during that time period, but not Full Metal Jacket. It'll be something else. I haven't quite decided what it is yet. But I noticed that the screenplay for The Short Timers was written by, you know, Gustav Kubrick and a man named I forgot what it's called, William Hers or something like that. But he wrote this so-called non-fiction book called Dispatches, which apparently he later said a lot of it was fabricated, but it's about during his times in Vietnam. And there's an interesting segue in there where he talks about Errol Flynn's son, who, in case you don't know, his son was a journalist, a photojournalist in Vietnam, and he went off one day with a mate while motorcycling out, and he never came back. And it was never quite figured out what happened to him, but general consensus was that he was kidnapped and killed. So that's that. And the final book is Dream Story, Arthur Schnitzler, also in its native tongue, Traum Novelle, which was adapted into Eyes Wide Shut, which I'm looking forward to watching because I haven't seen it in about 12 years or so. So instead of the traditional, you know, 24 books I'll read in 2024, which is really, really fucking difficult for me, I just thought I'd distill it into a much shorter list, and a list that would be of relevance to me. It combines my love of books and of movies, and it also allows me to read the book and then watch the movie and do sort of a comparison on it. I also want to read some more books on there, including some that some of you commented last year on my recommend me some books, and a lot of you recommended a lot. I think I counted a total of at least 70 different books on that list there, so it's a big list. Some of them I found to be quite fascinating, including there's one called the Copenhagen Trilogy. I want to get to that. Another one that was recommended was The Sea Wolf by Jack London. Now, when I researched Jack London, the more I research and the more I actually want to read him. He seems like he's right up my alley. And the obvious books that are recommended by him are, Call of the Wild and I think White Fang or something like that. But The Sea Wolf is the one that's really taken my interest. Just this really bizarre philosophical tale on a ship. It's like a more mischievous Moby Dick almost, only with probably less symbolism. I don't know, very philosophical. It's really piqued my interest, so I want to get around to that as well. And then other books I also want to take in this year are Shogun by James Clavell, because I like the Japanese authors and their books in that country, but I want to read something. I want to read like a Westerner's perspective of Japan. So I'm curious to see how Shogun goes, and apparently he's quite a good author as well. We've also got Spaceman of Bohemia, so that gets me back into that sci-fi territory. We've got Mickey 17. Now, I only want to read that because Bong Joon-ho's got a movie coming out, and I'm a big fan of all his previous films. Obviously, everyone knows Parasite, but for me, his big film was Memories of Murder, which came out back in, I think, 2003. Which in a way makes a great double feature with David Fincher's Zodiac. Two brilliant films right there. And then we've got some of the more weirder ones on this list, including Red Harvest, which people do a bit of a comparison between Red Harvest and Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad. For the video game enthusiasts out there, Far Cry 2, which is probably considered like one of the lesser liked ones out there, but I really like the story to it. The inspiration for Far Cry 2 was a combination of two books. It was Heart of Darkness and Red Harvest, and Red Harvest appears to be quite a brutal book that was written like almost 100 years ago. Talented Mr. Ripley, that's another book on the recommend me books list that a lot of people talked about, was a Talented Mr. Ripley, so I want to get around to reading that. And then to finish off Cormac McCarthy, Cities of the Plain. Once I read Cities of the Plain, that'll be the final Cormac McCarthy book. And then that's it. I'm done with the man, which means I'll have to find another author to read all his work in. And I guess that comes down to either Thomas Pynchon, Don DeLillo, or Philip Roth. I've actually never read any Philip Roth, so that'll be a good one to get into. And there's more on this list as well. I'm sort of still distilling, but right now, as it stands, for me this year, it'll be 2024, A Reading Odyssey, my year with Kubrick. The list, I probably won't start the list until about 4 months into this year, because I still got quite a schedule that I've got to try and get all these books done that I was hoping to get done end of last year. So it's going to push it back a little bit, but it's only 11 books, and most of those books that I talked about are within a short sort of page frame, so they're doable. So hopefully I can actually start putting more content out there and actually pay more attention not only to your feedback but also to other YouTubers out there, booktubers I guess, who I've left to the wayside, because I've been off. Once I post a video, I generally go off YouTube for like 2 to 3 months, and I've not been keeping up with what they've been posting. And some of those people out there are fantastic readers. In fact, they're probably better than me, a lot better than me with what they read. They're much more articulate in what they talk about. So it'll be great to get back into that and actually watch fellow booktubers and what they're talking about, and see if we view things through the same lens. As it stands, that is my reading list. Hope it takes your fancy. It's a very unique list of books there, but he's a very unique person, and I've always wanted to learn more about Kubrick. And I think the catalyst for doing this was that there's a biography of Kubrick coming out either next week or the week after, which apparently is the definitive book on him, which is a gigantic book. I think it's like 850 pages, so it's the book. It condenses everything we know about the man, which will be good for me. I always want to know more about him, and then hopefully in the future get more into other directors, including the ones that I mentioned earlier before, because I mean, I've watched Akira Kurosawa, I've watched Federico Fellini, but I've not watched a single Ingmar Bergman or Andrei Tarkovsky. Ingmar Bergman, you can find some of his films, but the ones I really want to watch aren't available for streaming. And Andrei Tarkovsky, for some strange reason, is just not available anywhere. I can't watch any of his films. I don't know why. Not a single one. Not Stalker, not Solaris, not Mirrors. Just, it's fascinating. But yeah, so I hope this takes your fancy. It's a very different thing than what I normally do, but I'm excited. So yeah, thank you very much, and have a pleasant beginning of the year. See you all. Bye.